What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to the lab where I offer my thoughts and reviews for the culture. If you are new to the channel, be sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss when we are in the lab. I am Dee, and I'm coming at you with a review of Peacock's Bel Air Season 2, Episode 5, which is entitled Excellence is Everywhere. So, do y'all know how many miles an NBA player runs in the season? According to a pimp named Doc, over 100. So we opened the episode with Will struggling to keep up with his new teammates at Zenith Hype, because y'all remember he got kicked off indefinitely from the Bel Air team. Will does not exactly receive a warm welcome from his new teammates, and he is not West Philly Will. He is Bel Air Will. And so Will is vomiting, and to make matters worse, he has to face his fear of water because the team will be swimming laps, 50 to start. Jackie encourages Will to show them that he's not just some kid from Bel Air. Towards the end of the scene, Doc hands Will a book by Malcolm Gladwell, and he says, "I give this book to all my players. 10,000 hours of practice to be great. Just got to keep putting in the time." So I love this because it allows us to recall from the first season when Will first arrives to Bel Air and Uncle Phil gives him a book as well. So I love this idea of presenting literature as a way to liberation, literature as healing, literature as a tool to help you understand the world around you. So I love that they do that. However, not only do we have to wonder where Will's mama is, but where are Jackie's people? I'm surmising that Doc is her guardian because he tells her, Jackie, don't be late to school. I feel like he takes care of her. And so I'm wondering what their backstory is. And they both have an uncle who is taking care of them. And so I wonder if this is going to help forge their bond even stronger and drive Jackie to feel a sense of loyalty to Will. Okay, in our next scene, we find out that Janice has made it very clear that she is not comfortable with Aunt Viv pushing the envelope for this art fellowship and showcase, which opens a larger conversation, I think, on the limitations imposed on Black art and Black people in general. Do me a favor and check out the work of Deana Lawson. So I went down a rabbit hole of Deana Lawson's work, and she is the first artist working in photography to win the Hugo Boss Prize, which ranks among the top art awards in the world and is given to one artist every other year. What captivates me about Lawson's work is how it offers a space to reimagine Black life at the center rather than the margins. I feel like her work gives Black bodies a majesty and a regalness because it gives it this regalness, and it transforms our environment into royal dwellings. And so for me, Lawson's work, it does push the envelope because it dares to be specific to the Black experience and the African diaspora. Aunt Viv wants to showcase art that highlights Black excellence, and I feel that that is specific and it is intentional, and it takes Black experiences and Black contributions from the margins and places it on a center stage. I'm curious as to whether Janice is hesitant because, she's the advisor of the fellowship, a Black woman, and I wonder if she's hesitant because she understands the political and social culture of the art industry. What we see are parallels between Janice and Miss Benson. Y'all remember she's the advisor of the Black Student Union. But here are two Black women who navigate respective systems by playing the game. However, what I want to consider is what happens when you come in contact with someone of the younger generation who is unwilling to play by the rules that are designed to relegate Black people and our contributions to the back of the line. Like, what have the older Black women in our lives found out about pushing the envelope? What have they committed to memory when they use their voice? What lurks in the shadows when they dare to show up in the fullness of who they are? when they dare to emerge from the shadows of the margins and rise in the center. And so I'm thinking about how can we challenge their methods while still honoring their experience and their sacrifice. I would love to see a conversation between Janice and Aunt Viv that allows us to have this needed, vulnerable conversation as a people, a conversation that explores misogynoir, the intersection of race and art, the function of representation and disrupting white supremacy culture. This makes me recall on Instagram, well, this was back when Beyonce performed at Coachella, which we acknowledge as Beachella, but her mother, Tina Laws, posted on Instagram her reflections, and she said, I told Beyonce that I was afraid that the predominantly white audience at Coachella would be confused by all the Black culture and Black college culture because it was something that they might not get. And so I think that is relevant to what we're seeing on Bel Air, because think back to the students doing the protests, and you have the Black Student Union advisor saying, this is a lot, this is too much, shaking the boat. This is going to be the impact and these are going to be the effects. Similarly, we have Janice saying, don't push this envelope too much. They may not get it. They may not understand what it is that you're trying to say. And we have that with Tina Lawson. So you have generation after generation where pushing the envelope and centering Blackness, Black issues, Black creativity, Black excellence is always seen to be some kind of threat. I would love for the show to explore that more. And I feel like that's a conversation we have to have in a larger, it has to be a larger conversation for our community. What does it mean to push the envelope? What does it mean to center our experience? And what sacrifices and strategies have to be employed to ensure that we get there? So Ms. Hughes got some offers closer to her family, and she's going to get a very nice settlement. Love to hear it. She leaves a card for Ashley, which reads, quote, Ashley, thank you for using your voice and helping me be seen. Never lose that special spark. Remember, our excellence is everywhere. Love, Miss Hughes. End quote. Okay, later, what I love about this is that later we see that our excellence is everywhere is the theme that drives Aunt Viv's art show. Okay, the nominations are in, and we are reminded that in order to be nominated, a student must have their name put forward by either a faculty member or a student organization. So as the class waits for Carlton's name to be recited on the loudspeaker, Will reassures Carlton, and he tells him, don't worry, you got this. It's all you. Pay attention to that it's all you part, okay? But we hear Carlton's name, which is a big sigh of relief. We know how badly Carlton wants to start his own legacy at Princeton. However, we hear a final name from the nominations, Will Smith. Now, I don't know how many of the other nominees are Black, but I wouldn't be surprised if Carlton and Will are the only two Black nominees, which brings into focus this idea of scarcity mindset and how it does not actually serve us. So in a Canada Land article, which I'll put in the description, but in a Canada Land article entitled How a Scarcity Mindset Leads to Infighting Between Marginalized Groups, Emily Nicholas does a great job of explaining scarcity mindset and its impact. She states, quote, I don't think it's jealousy. It's just the lack of being able to identify with the majority that gets all the airspace. So we never get jealous of the people who get all the airspace. We get jealous of the person who gets a crumb that's a little bit bigger than ours. In a white supremacist society, there's not enough for all of us. That creates weird jealousy and infighting, where really we should all be together fighting the power, end quote. And that brings me to this question. Is there enough room for more than one king at Bel Air? The answer is yes. However, we have to be aware of the systems and structures that tell us otherwise. So ask yourself, who and what benefits from scarcity mindset? Notice that Carlton is not upset that Carlton is not upset that Connor is nominated. No, Connor is part of the majority group that gets all the airspace. And Yasmin points out to Carlton that Will brings a perspective that we've never seen before. It's nothing personal. He's just the right choice. And 2 Black students were nominated. No matter what, that's a good thing. Oh, yeah, I definitely think we're going to see some infighting here because that is what scarcity or making things seem as though they're scarce. That is what it does to a community and to a group of people instead of addressing the systems that created the scarcity or the illusion of scarcity. What happens is the attack and the challenge is on the person who may have received something that's a little bit bigger than yours, as Emily Nicholas said. So it has me thinking about how scarcity mindset has shown up in my own life, particularly in academia and college, and then ultimately on to career. So I'm curious as to how that shows up in multiple spaces in our community. So Connor enters the classroom where Carlton is minding his business, and he says to Carlton, "I know we're not boys, but I know you, Carlton. There's no way you're good right now." Then has the audacity to place a small package filled with white substance in front of Carlton, who quickly grabs it before anyone can see it and rushes to the restroom, where he clearly experiences this internal conflict as to whether or not he should partake. Then we hear the toilet flush, but I'm not so certain the white substance is one of the I'm not sure that it became one with the flurry rotating the toilet bowl. We know that Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil are aware of Carlton's anxiety and panic attacks. I am wondering if they are aware of his substance abuse. Like, do they know that that is one of his coping mechanisms? Which then leads me to wondering, is anyone aware that this is a coping mechanism for Carlton other than Connor, Lisa, and Will? It seems to me that Will can go to Jazz, he can go to Aunt Viv, Uncle Phil, Doc, Geoffrey. But who is Carlton's safe adult? Also, I just got to put this out here. My brother believes I take it way too easy on Carlton. I think it's hard for Carlton to escape the villain aura that the show used to introduce him. I also think that Carlton's character reveals a range and depth that is underrepresented with Black characters. And finally, I was an educator working with youth, so I'm always considering the whole student, the whole person. I believe fundamentally all behavior communicates something. And so I do take time to consider Carlton's behavior, and he just wants me to, go in on him, but it's a soft spot over here for Carlton. So we find out that the billables from last quarter are down 30%, mostly due to the loss of the Garrison construction account, which is Uncle Phil's firm's biggest client. Now, Geoffrey suggests a sit down with Mr. Garrison. Let Mr. Garrison know that Uncle Phil is back on the throne, resecure his business, calm partner nerves, and put a pause on the acquisition. And I think this is so fundamental to why Uncle Phil and Geoffrey work. Uncle Geoffrey has proven throughout this series so far that he is more than a house manager, or what we understood of Geoffrey's character in The Fresh Prince of Bel Air. He is more than just a butler. In this series, Geoffrey is allowed to exude confidence. He is allowed to be a strategist, a thought leader, and his opinion is respected. The partnership between Uncle Phil and Geoffrey allows the bank's estate to stay intact. And I love that we get to see these 2 dark-skinned Black men be strategists, be thought leaders, check each other, be vulnerable with one another, share an intimacy, and it's just, it plays out so dope on the screen. And Uncle Phil agrees, and you can tell that he respects Geoffrey's point of view because he takes us to this bougie restaurant where we meet Erica. So Erica and Philip know each other on a first name basis. She's giving Olivia Pope vibes, and while she has the powerful career, because apparently she now poached Uncle Phil's biggest client, she has not been so fortunate in the marriage and family department. Also, I need to point this out. I felt from the moment Erica came on the screen that there was a historic intimacy between she and Uncle Phil. And I feel that my suspicions about that were solidified when Erica picked up the glass intended for Uncle Phil's former client. So she picks up that glass, she takes a swig, and she says, "Oh, Bon, one of your favorites, if I remember correctly." Which I think that hinted at the indication that their past is more than business. And listen, I like you, Erica. You remind me of so many of the women I know and love, including me. But this is a We Love All Things Aunt Viv channel. I just need you to keep it cute. Anyway, Erica says she didn't choose the right guy. And this subtly catches Uncle Phil's attention if you pay attention to the way Uncle Phil emotes. I think Uncle Phil is the one who got away when it comes to Erica. And it makes me wonder whether Uncle Phil was supposed to be with Erica and Aunt Viv with Reed. Because if you think about it, both Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv, they have people from their past unexpectedly show up in their lives, and it shakes things up. Last season, it was Reed. He came back into her life, and we don't know the full scope of their relationship, but there was enough in their interactions and engagement for us to understand that this was more than a friendship. Right? That there were some feelings involved. And I think we are seeing the same thing with Uncle Phil and Erica. When Erica says, "Let's address the elephant in the room," Uncle Phil's expression, you got to pay attention because it's quick, but Uncle Phil's expression reveals what we suspect. These two have unfinished business. However, Erica plays it off as though the elephant she's talking about is the poached client and not their personal situation. So Uncle Phil, I think, clearly respects Erica. He likes that she is willing to challenge him. Erica tells him that she is not giving up her client, but informs Uncle Phil that there is one thing he can do to get his client back. We later find out in the episode that the one thing he can do is join her law firm as a senior partner, and she'll give James and the firm the Garrison account. Both Geoffrey and I want to know if Phil has discussed this with Aunt Viv. And Uncle Phil says not until there's anything to discuss, which is the wrong answer, because it's just going to blow up, okay? And it's not going to look to Aunt Viv the way it actually is. I don't think that's the wisest choice. Apparently Geoffrey doesn't either. And so we'll see how that shakes out. So Aunt Viv challenges Hilary with such softness, and this is why I want to be Aunt Viv when I grow up. You know, I want to channel many of those characteristics and traits in my own motherhood. But she says to Hilary, "If Fanta and Monica see that you're the first to get the house sponsor on your own without Ivy, they'll see that you're a boss. Look, trust your gut. See where it takes you." I loved hearing that come from a Black mother to her Black daughter. And Hilary does the same with Aunt Viv when she points out, "Listen, Mom, you're a boss too. Why should everyone get their vision if it means losing sight of your own? You need to trust your gut. See where it takes you." I love any scene with Aunt Viv and Hilary because you get to reimagine a world where Black mother-daughter relationships on screen bloom in fields of support, understanding, softness, listening, encouragement, guidance, vulnerability, hopefulness. Also, Aunt Viv is allowing Hilary to use her art event to gain publicity for the influencer house and ultimately gain enough followers to close the Simply Spike deal. But for me, it was not about the Simply Spike deal and using your mother's event to help close the deal. It was about seeing Black mother-daughter relationships in full bloom in a healthy way that really just spoke to the kind of relationship I want to have with my own daughter, or I want to have with, my female students. Just that softness, that soft place for Black girls to come and be poured into. But in doing that, you're also receiving abundance. So anyway, I just thought that was really executed well, and executed in a way that is artistic, and allows me to reimagine worlds where Black moms and Black daughters get to show up fully and love on each other. Even Lisa pours into Aunt Viv. She tells her, "I love the way you're changing up the art show to make it your own." We find out that excellence everywhere is a new theme inspired by Ashley, and I think also inspired by Miss Hughes, because this is what she writes to Ashley in that note. So we'll see what Janice thinks of all this when she shows up. Also, Lisa has revealed to Aunt Viv that both Carlton and Will received the nomination for the Founders Award that I'm thinking about renaming the Scarcity Award. Lisa also reveals that Carlton had a panic attack at the protest, and now Aunt Viv needs to have a talk with Uncle Phil, because Will knew all about the panic attack and decided not to come to Aunt Viv or Uncle Phil. So Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil need a game plan for how they approach the discussion with Will and Carlton. Viv takes on Carlton and Uncle Phil takes on Will. Why do you think that decision was made? I don't have children of my own, so I'm curious as to how parents, quote unquote, game plan when they are, addressing situations with their children. Anyway, Will agrees to take himself out of the running for the Founders Award to allow Carlton to have his own thing. Do you all feel that was a part of Uncle Phil's game plan? Like, to convince Will to take himself out of the running so that Carlton will not feel pressured to compete and ultimately go down a spiral? It is interesting how this scene mirrors the scene with the Bel Air coach, because recall that the Bel Air coach wanted Will to dim his talent so that someone else on the team could shine. In this case, I love Uncle Phil, but I feel that Uncle Phil is the coach, because he asks Will to pass the ball to someone else, and he does so under the guise of, Will, if you're not passionate about it, then know that it means the world to Carlton. Again, this is a conversation that Will's mother should be a part of. He's giving up a leadership reward that could be the key to him going to an Ivy, which I'm saying Ivy the way they put, Ivy on a pedestal. But anyway, I do think that his mother would very much want to be a part of that conversation. And writers, we are 5 episodes in, and you are not going to convince me that a Black mother is not wanting to know what is going on with her Black son. Okay. So I do think we dropping the ball a little bit on that, but hopefully before this season is over, his mother is all up in the business, Anyway, Uncle Phil, I think he kind of presents it as a guise. If you don't want it and you truly care about your cousin, then take yourself out of the running. And I think this is kind of like a throwback to when we find out who the nominees are, and Will tells Carlton, "It's all you." Is it all Carlton? Does it only have to be Carlton? And again, that's where we bring up that scarcity mindset. Will agrees, like I said, to take himself out of the running, because he says he's just worried about AAU, and that's it, which broke my heart for him. That he is limiting himself only to his athletic abilities. And it kind of breaks my heart that Uncle Phil does not affirm for him that he is more than basketball, right? Although there are times where Uncle Phil does that in earlier episodes in the series. But what I'm saying, in this moment, I would have wanted Uncle Phil to let him know that he is more than AAU, and that is not the only option he has for success. And this is why you're going to find out later why I appreciate a certain side to a pimp named Doc. Also, just a side note, both Will and Aunt Viv have expressed their concern about how Carlton is coping with decreasing his anxiety medication. And in both instances, Carlton tells them that he tells them what they want to hear. He is wearing a mask, and they both tell him, I believe you, right? You have Will checking in on him after he sees Connor pass him something. Carlton tells him he's fine, and Will says, I believe you. And then you have this instance where Aunt Viv goes into Carlton's room to check on him about the Founders Award and having the panic attack at the protest. Carlton convinces her that he's fine and, he's going to have good and bad days. Even the doctor said this. And Aunt Viv says, I believe you. Right? So we have both of those instances. I think that is very intentional from the writers. For the rest of the season, we'll see Carlton working to maintain that mask, that he is okay as he spirals internally. And I think that internal spiral is going to emerge from the mask, and more, Aunt Viv and Will are going to struggle to believe Carlton when he says that he has things under control. They're already struggling to believe it now, but they're trying to give him the space and opportunity to work through this. But I think as the season goes on, we are going to see Will and Aunt Viv really struggle with giving Carlton the space to figure it out. So a pimp named Doc has dropped his niece off because she has an opportunity at Aunt Viv's art show. Now, in this section of my review, I'm just going to refer to him as Doc because I feel in this scene we get to see Doc the man and not Doc the recruiter or Doc the pimp, right? So Uncle Phil has clearly shut Doc out, but Aunt Viv is very warm and open toward him. One of the few times we see Doc smile is with Aunt Viv. Why do I point this out? Because I think Aunt Viv humanizes the Banks family for Doc. In her, Doc sees someone who wants what's best for her West Philly nephew. She is for the culture. She's putting emerging Black talent on center stage, and she provides access and spaces for young Black kids who are often denied that access. So I feel that Doc relates to Aunt Viv and feels a connection in their work. Remember in the last episode, Doc told Uncle Phil that he doesn't want to quiet what's inside of Will. He wants to bring it out. Now, what motives he has for that, we are still unsure. But this is something that he asserts, and he asserts very proudly and matter-of-factly. This is what Aunt Viv does in her art show. This is how Aunt Viv pushes the envelope. She brings out into the open what so many want us to keep quiet. I think Uncle Phil loves that in Aunt Viv, but he is so suspicious of it in Doc. Why is that? So at the art show, Doc tells Will that the academic piece at Bel Air is important too. He says that school is going to open a lot of doors for you. Doors those guys will never see. And by those guys, he's talking about Will's new teammates. How does Doc feel about Will getting nominated for the Founders Award? Well, he tells Will, you got leadership skills too. And D1 schools, they looking for that. Don't be so quick to count yourself out. And as the camera pans out, we see this beautiful art piece of Muhammad Ali in his victory stance in the ring. And that image is so relevant to the conversation between Will and Doc because, yes, Ali is a boxer, right? That is like his athletic prowess. However, what makes him iconic, what makes him monumental and cherished was and is his leadership, who he was in the ring and outside of the ring. Doc pushes Will to consider who he is on the court and off the court. So is Doc still a pimp named Doc, or is he a mentor who happens to mentor differently than Uncle Phil? Because it is different, but does it make it wrong or less than? I don't know. That is a pivotal question for Will as he seeks guidance from both men. We shall see. Anyway, Hilary lets the other influencers of the house know that she has a surprise that will get them more visibility for the house. More on that later. Jackie and Lisa finally meet. Neither know who the other is. They're sharing encouragement and compliments. And I love that the writers didn't go the tired, two black women in the room are competitors route. And I hope they keep it this way even after these two young ladies find out who the other one is to Will. So we have been wondering for maybe 2 episodes, who is Lamarcus? And we find out from Jazz that Lamarcus, most receptions in the Rose Bowl, touchdown machine, Alton, is Hilary's ex. Jazz is literally fanning out because he is none the wiser that Lamarcus is Hilary's ex. We also find out that Lamarcus just got traded from the Eagles to the Rams, and he is happy to be back in LA. And he says this while staring Hilary up and down, which lets us know that he's happy to be back close to Hilary. Now, Hilary does introduce Jazz as her boyfriend, and Lamarcus has the same expression as Uncle Phil when Hilary introduced Jazz to her parents a couple episodes past. They're both dumbfounded because, as Hilary has pointed out, she has always dated Bel Air boys, and Jazz is different. Also, it doesn't help Jazz's insecurity that Hilary's entire family loves Lamarcus. Uncle Phil and Lamarcus are frat brothers. Aunt Viv gives him a warm welcome and asks about his parents. Even Ashley is Team Lamarcus. We learn later, though, that Hilary and Lamarcus broke up because he got drafted to Philly and she didn't want to do the long distance anymore. Good for you, girl, for choosing yourself. However, Jazz insinuates that if Lamarcus had never left, Lamarcus and Hilary would still be together. And it is possible. I can't get mad at Jazz for feeling that way. Hilary argues that inviting Lamarcus is a business strategy, and we know it's working because one of the influencers just informed Hilary that the pic posted of Hilary and Lamarcus just garnered 6,000 likes in 15 minutes. This social media world, child. I think Hilary is going to allow the social media business to ruin a good thing for her. Because, what's next? You're going to go on a public date with Lamarcus for likes and views and expect Jazz to be cool with it because it's just business. And Jazz even tells her, it's good. Go do your thing. I'll be right here. No, Jazz. Listen, Jazz has too much dignity, pride, and self-respect for that. You go over there and do this thing, and I'm just going to be right here when you get back. I didn't like that, right? So I think Jazz needs to set boundaries with Hilary in their relationship or in the relationship. If Jazz was doing this to Hilary, he'd be called a horrible person. Hilary, you're playing with fire. We later learned that the live stream with Lamarcus really did the trick, and Hilary has closed the deal with Simply Spiked, which is now the official drink of the influencer house. Not only do I think this will complicate matters with Ivy, but it will certainly and has already complicated matters with Jazz, who is not responding to Hilary's calls or texts. You know what's dope? We are the living legacy of people who have fought hard and sacrificed greatly to ensure that we have space and opportunity to elevate our humanity. Aunt Viv gives this beautiful speech about attending Howard University and HBCU, where she was exposed to the Barnett-Aden Gallery, the first privately owned Black gallery in the United States. And she also asserts her endeavor to live up to the legacy of the Barnett-Aden Gallery and creating a space where we are all, quote, respected, heard, and welcomed, end quote. And isn't that the society we want when I heard her mention those things, it's like we all want that for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our children, for our family members, for the people we love and care about. We all want them to be able to exist in a world where they are respected, they are seen, they are heard, and they are welcome. Anyway, I feel that cultivating a space where we can show up in our fully flawed humanity and actually matter is what we are all pushing for in the work that we do in this society. So Aunt Viv has curated a collection that includes her own work, but also the work of emerging photographers, painters, sculptors, and dance. And this is when she introduces the Syncopated Ladies, which is a female tap dance band from LA. And here's what I love about Bel Air, okay? Part of this episode is about Aunt Viv using her art exhibit to communicate that art excellence is everywhere. And that's so beautiful. But I think Bel Air as a show, as a series, does that throughout each episode. From the books we are introduced to paying homage to HBCUs, our art is on display, our music is on display, our cultural landscapes, our careers, our physical talents, our intelligence, our style. Our excellence is just threaded throughout Bel Air, episode after episode. I am literally keeping a list of books that I need to read. Like, the book that Miss Hughes handed Ashley is on my book list. I am keeping a list of artists that I need to follow. Aunt Viv dropped the names of so many artists, and I'm just like, I need to know what their work is and how their work captures our experience. I'm keeping a list of museums I need to visit, hairstyles I need to experiment with. It's just so dope to be Black and alive at the same time that Bel Air hits the screens. Anyway, Will is enjoying watching Jackie with the Syncopated Ladies, and Uncle Phil notices Geoffrey walk off away from everyone. And I'm just like, oh, he's going to catch him doing something against the family. So Will has the nerve to kiss Jackie all casually in front of Lisa. And Lisa hit the nail on the head earlier in the episode when she told Will, oh, I'm only your girl when you want something. And she's right. But I like the way both ladies handled it. This did not turn into a fighting moment. Oftentimes in pop culture, we see the new girl be dismissive of the old flame, right? And I didn't get any of that energy from Jackie. Jackie tells Will that maybe he's cool with, he and Lisa being friends, but Lisa ain't cool with it, right? But the way she says it and the energy in which she says it, it does not come from a place of F her or oh well energy. It's a heartbreak is hard, consider her feelings kind of energy. And so Will goes on to apologize to Lisa, and Lisa says that she's not even mad. Okay, Lisa. But she says she feels stupid for being that girl who holds out hope for the guy who broke her heart and hoping that the guy may still have feelings for her too. And Will tells Lisa that she's the best friend he has made in LA since being out there. And that's when Lisa chooses herself. I mean, she might as well have been Tamia. Was that Tamia? No, she might as well have been Deborah Cox on that RL track. Remember that track, We Can't Be Friends, I'm Still in Love with You? That's what it was giving me. But Lisa says, that's nice, but it's not going to work for me anymore, Will. I tried and I can't. We can't be friends anymore. Now, y'all know, based on my previous reviews, that I have wanted Lisa's character to bloom from that sad place. I didn't want to see her sappy all the time, waiting for Will to notice her. And I feel that in this moment, Lisa chose herself. And in doing so, she chose her mental health. She chose her dignity, her self-respect. She chose self-confidence to say and do a hard thing. It is hard to say, this does not work for me anymore. It is hard to say, we can't be friends anymore. But I'm so proud of her for doing that. I think from this point forward, we will see Lisa continue to use her voice and put herself first. And it is a lesson, I think, to all of us to be that girl who chooses herself, right? Choose yourself when it's hard. Choose yourself when it's easy. Choose yourself when you're not even sure that choosing yourself is the right thing. Because what I've learned personally as a Black woman is that when we choose ourselves, we choose abundance. We choose so many things just by choosing ourselves. And so I'm excited to see how Lisa's character evolves from her making this intentional, hard decision to put herself first. All right, so we meet Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv on the couch, which I have come to look forward to because this space that they're in allows the intimacy of their marriage and their partnership to be on full display. So we know that when we see Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil with a glass of wine on the couch, we are going to get glimpses of their intimacy. We're going to get glimpses of vulnerability, their way they encourage one another, challenge one another, reassure the other, but it's also where they come to be strategic thinkers. They are in alliance. They make sure that they are on the same page. And it is here that we learn the anonymous artwork at the gallery is actually Aunt Viv's, and it is so powerful. And Uncle Phil encourages her not to forget her own voice while she's focused on giving other people a voice too. And I feel that this was such a message for women, particularly women of color, because we give so much of ourselves to ensure that our family is okay, our community is okay, the country is okay, hell, the world is okay. And in doing so, we put elements of ourselves on the shelf. And so I love that this came from a Black man telling a Black woman not to forget herself as she does this work. It was very much on time. So anyway, Uncle Phil doesn't want to ruin Aunt Viv's night, but we have a problem with Geoffrey. Uncle Phil apparently has set up a security camera in his office, which has captured Geoffrey searching for something or someone. And Uncle Phil believes what we believe, which is that he is searching for his son, Frederick. And this begs the burning question again, why can't Geoffrey know where his son is? Where is his son? Why are they not together? And also, I was a little surprised at Aunt Viv's response, because why are Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil in agreement that it would be a bad idea for Geoffrey to find his son and be in contact with him, right? So it's just like, what is going on here under the surface, and why is it not good for Geoffrey to know his son's whereabouts? And then finally, we get the juxtaposition of the book bag. So at the end of the episode, I think the director, the writers, the camera folk, the actors, they all do such a great job creating the juxtaposition between Will and Carlton, because the camera shows us both young men lying in their respective rooms on the bed, looking at the ceiling, and we get the aura that they're both contemplating their futures. And so they both go to their book bags, right? Which is so symbolic of our future. Our book bags holds what's in our futures, right? Now, but they bring out two very different things. When Will retrieves something from his book bag, it is a laptop. And when he opens that laptop, we are seeing that he is accessing information about the Founders Award, right? And there's so much light in the room. We see Will smile. We get a sense of hopefulness. And I'm actually excited for Will, because what this also shows is that Doc does have influence on Will, but it's not just this bad influence that Uncle Phil believes is going to drag Will into a life of mischief. We actually see that Doc has influence that allows Will to reimagine himself as an athlete who is also a leader, who is also intelligent, and who also deserves to be a recipient of the Founder Award. He deserves access to institutions that will position him in ways that a lot of young boys who come from the communities that he come from will not have that access. Now, conversely, we go over to Carlton's room, and this is how the juxtaposition becomes stark. Carlton reaches into his backpack, and what he pulls out is nothing to do with the Founders Award. He pulls out the package that contains the white substance that Connor offered for him. And we see him retrieve that from his book bag, and he places it in a drawer. And Carlton's room does not have the same light that Will's room has. Carlton does not smile. He actually seems very troubled, right? And it begs the question of, are we going to get the Carlton from season one? At least early season one, right? Are we going to get the Carlton with the dark energy, the jealousy, high out of his mind, upset, doing things to sabotage Will's success? I hope he doesn't go back down that route, but I do think what the ending of this episode shows us is that we have two young Black men who are trying to navigate where they are, and they are trying to shape their future. And there are obstacles in the way of that. And who has to give something up for the other to have, right? Because they're both giving up something so that the other one has access. I'm just wondering, will they stay the course and support each other, or will scarcity mindset turn them against each other and they fight over the crumbs, which I don't want to call the Founders Award a crumb because it does provide you access, but essentially it drives them to turn against each other. So anyway, I thought the juxtaposition of that was done really, really well. And I am interested to see how all of the key players in this family access their excellence, but what will they have to compromise to get it? All right, beautiful people, that is a wrap on season 2, episode 5 of Peacock's Bel Air. I know you enjoyed this review, so go ahead and hit the like button. You should already be subscribed, and I want to know what came up for you as you listen to this review and or as you watch the episode. So make sure you drop your thoughts in the comments section. Don't be shy. Share the video on your social media platforms, and I will be back coming at you with a review for season 2, episode 6.